this is becoming a bit of a problem for the government, isn't it?
We've got a winter of discontent, which reminds me of 1979, when I remember working in Leicester Square with bags up to the roof of rubbish. We haven't got the dustmen on strike, but we've got everybody else on strike so far, it seems to me. And the government's response to talk about bringing legislation, it doesn't actually deal with the core of the problem. Why are people going on strike? They're not asking that question. They're trying to suppress it as if that's going to solve the problem, and it isn't actually. I don't think minimum requirement service levels can work. You can't force people to go to work and do what you want them to do.
Hang on, they do it in Europe.
I don't think it's going to work. I know they do.
They do it in Europe.
Well,
France and Germany, and these are members of the great European Union.
They may be doing it in France and Germany, but I don't think it's going to work over here. I don't think you can force people. Well, because I don't think you can force people to turn up to work and do what you want them to do. They'll either turn up to work and not work properly, or they'll phone in sick or something else. I just think we don't want this antagonism between employers and employees. What we have to do is try and get a consensus of how we want to go forward. People understand if they're workers, there's a difficult situation with inflation. They understand the economy is in a difficult spot. They understand that they can't always have inflation plus increases at the moment. But the government's got to understand that people have got a cost of living crisis and they've got to pay their bills. And somewhere in the middle of that is an answer. And having one side pitched against the other isn't the way forward.
Strikes only make it worse.
Well, they do, but so does the government make it worse by threatening to clamp down on civil liberties.
I mean, Rishi Sunak has said he would do that for emergency services, things like A&E and ambulance drivers. And, you know, it's already illegal for the army or for the police to go on strike.
Yes.
If it comes to life-saving, life-critical situations, presumably the public would have sympathy. People are very concerned that the ambulances won't be able to attend to their loved ones in their hour of...
Well, as I understand it, those who run ambulance services have said that they will attend people having heart attacks or strokes or other such emergencies such as that. So in a sense, that's been covered already.
Yeah, but if they say that, Norman, but they can't give that guarantee. We spoke to a member of the Unite trade union here last week. You cannot guarantee that people won't die as a result of ambulance workers withdrawing their labour, because there's not going to be enough of them driving the vans.
Well, can I just come to Gillian Keegan? Because Gillian Keegan's answer appears to be, the government's answer appears to be bringing the military, which the military don't want to be pulled into this, by the way. They want to be kept out of these things. But the military don't know how to deal with emergencies and ambulances. The fact is, ambulances these days are highly automated machines where people are treated as they go from where they're picked up to the hospital. They then sit, by the way, for hours outside the hospital because there's no beds for them. So what happens in the ambulance is actually very important. The driving of the ambulance is almost neither here nor there. So putting the military in it isn't going to help that at all.
They've got a medical corps in the army who are sophisticated, and they did build those extraordinary Nightingale hospitals in a matter of days.
Well, you can build a hospital, that, if I may say so, is quite a low-level skill. I mean, what we're talking about is using highly sophisticated equipment in ambulances for trained paramedics. And the military, with the best will in the world, that's not their skill set.
Do you support these strikers, the Border Force staff withdrawing labour over Christmas and the trained staff?
I don't support people going on strike and damaging the public good. I don't support that, Andrew. But what I do think is that the government's approach, which is antagonistic, is making matters worse rather than better.
Do you think it is antagonistic? Because just genuinely, Rishi Sunak at the dispatch box yesterday kept repeating the word that they were trying to be reasonable. And this, you know, they point to the fact that they've taken the advice of the independent pay body, particularly in relation to nurses, and actually gone ahead and given them surpluses and paid them extra last year compared to other sectors in the public sector because of the work they did through COVID.
The pay in the public sector has dropped in recent times, and the pay bodies which reported by and large way before the inflation spiral that we're now into, and therefore to some extent they're out of date. And in terms of the rail unions, which I'm familiar with that particular issue, you know, for ages there wasn't a discussion about the pay level at all. There was skirting around the edges about terms and conditions, which need to be sorted out, by the way, skirting around the edges. And it's only recently the Treasury signed off some sort of deal. So for weeks there was talks about nothing very much because the Treasury hadn't agreed what the pay rise would be. We've now got to a situation where they've offered, in the rail union's case, 4% plus 4%. You know, that is way below inflation. And at the same time, the government is asking, rightly in my view, for an amendment to terms and conditions for the rail workers to get rid of some of the ridiculous arrangements which have been in place since 1919 about race day working and so on. These all have to go, and the government is right to challenge that. But the deal must be, in the real terms, is that you get rid of the terms and conditions which are so antediluvian.
Which the union, by the way, is refusing to.
Well, I know they are, but because of the negotiations. But you get rid of those terms and conditions, and in turn you give them a decent pay rise. That's got to be the deal. We'll get there in the end. That's the solution to this.